am the new generation of scary stories. It's time to retire the boring, emotionless voiceovers. With my voice and melody, you will experience the full spectrum of emotions. Subscribe if you like my videos, and also send me your scary stories to my email. And please indicate how you would like me to introduce you in the video. Good luck.
I vividly remember that old nightstand all too well. It was made from dark oak with fine details of miniature vines twirling around the base of dark metal knobs jutting from each of the 3 drawers. A mistreated piggy bank, nestled with an oversized Spider-Man lamp, lie on top of it. Though it was bought new, the 12 years of staying in the same spot must have done a number on it, because it used to creak and groan whenever I moved a little too vigorously, causing my bedpost to slam against the small drawer. I mean, it wasn't like it was cursed or anything. We didn't buy the thing from any sketchy run-down garage sale or picked it up from the side of the road. It was nothing but a piece of furniture that my parents bought when Elle was a baby. It was only years later, when Elle started noticing something weird, I would find bits of hair scattered throughout the first drawer. It didn't really scare me at the time, as it more grossed me out. Elle was 12 at the time, and Elle just figured that the hair was just clips of random fluff. But it kept happening. I would open the top drawer and find a literal bird's nest of hair whenever Elle went looking for spare socks. The pile of hair kept growing and would start spilling out and onto the floor and toys scattered throughout my room. Elle would even find chunks of it in my bed. I knew then that it had gotten out of control, and Elle had to do something. To make it worse, some mysterious liquid had even started leaking from the top drawer to the sock drawer below. The sticky liquid stunk, and looking back, Elle had a sick feeling that it could have been piss or maybe something worse. As a child, having something happen to you that definitely could be blamed as your fault scares the living crap out of you. I thought that if my mom found this, she would blame it on me and would ban me from having sleepovers. So it was Elle that took care of the mess. I would take the balls of hair and throw it out in either the garden or secretly stow it away in the trash bin. My hands would be full of cuts and bruises because occasionally fingernails would be hidden in the midst of the dark clumps of hair, which cut my tiny hands and made them bleed. 12-year-old me thought he had this under control. He thought it would later go away and he would forget about it. He was wrong. In fact, it got worse. I would wake in the dead of night to banging and thumping coming from that first drawer of that crappy nightstand. It sounded like something was moving around in there, like a big animal shifting around in an enclosed space. My imagination took a toll, and my young brain went straight to the thought of mice. Random clumps of hair were one thing, but if it were mice, then that's another. Mice petrified me when Elle was younger. Our house was clean enough, but we would occasionally get the mice plague within our walls. I decided not to clean up anymore, because if those hairballs were mice, Elle don't want to go near it. I would rather my chances with the she-beast that was my mother than some viscous rodent. Without me cleaning up, the hairballs piled up, and just as Elle suspected, my mom noticed. I cried and threw up, telling her that there is mice in my drawer, how it isn't my fault, how Elle had nothing to do with it. She smiled and said that it was okay, and how mice don't bite. Looking back, she probably lied, because she didn't want me sleeping in her bed. One of the many reasons why Elle decided to move so far away from her when Elle left the house. She at least did something though. She opened the top drawer, cleared away all the fluff, then looked towards the back. "Must be stuck," my mom whispered as she attempted to yank the drawer out of nightstand. She eventually gave up and decided to shine a flashlight to see If there was a nest towards the back, it was pitch black even with a torch. You still could not see the light oak of the back. It was eerie, but my mother took no heed and chucked a big bag of rat poison into the back where it disappeared into the darkness. I woke up that night to more thudding and banging, but this time Elle heard coughing, not like an animal snort. It was a dead-set human cough. It started low and continued higher and louder, sounded like the kind my grandpa would make when choking on a loose bit of chicken. I ran immediately to my mother's room and begged to sleep in her bed. She grunted a sure and rolled over. In the morning, Elle opened my nightstand to stains of blood. Dried blood soaked in with the fluffs of hair, nails, and a mysterious stinky ouncy. Something had definitely eaten the poison, as chunks of the packet were littered throughout the small box. My nightstand drawer looked like a crime scene. Even with the mess, my mom just dumped more poison and told me to sleep in my own bed tonight. Once again, Elle kept waking up to shuffled, disgruntled coughs and groans. I didn't get much sleep, but that doesn't mean Elle got any. I had dreamed that night that Bucky, my dog, was sitting in a chair and slowly sliding across the room to me. The squeals of the chair moving closer rattled my brain, but it stopped when the dog was mere inch from my face. "I am in pain," whispered Bucky in a low voice. Then he started licking my face. I remember someone else was in my dream but couldn't remember it that well. All Elle remember is Bucky. But something wasn't right, and Elle knew even in my dream. Bucky stood taller than me, menacingly, and big enough to cast a shadow even though he was sitting. However, the worst part was that Bucky had human hands. He patted all over my face like he was blind and feeling all my facial features. That's when Bucky stopped licking and uttered out a terrible cough. A deep, low cough, which thrusted me back into reality. To see a real human hands wriggling through my hair. I only remember crying and hearing the searing squeal of the drawer snap shut as the withered bony arm recoiled back into the darkness of the nightstand. I didn't sleep in my own bed after that. I would cry and beg to my mom to let me sleep in her room just for her to brush it off as nightmares. It would actually frustrate me as a child. Whenever Elle recounted to her what happened, she would always reply with, "Not now, honey. Mommy's tired from work." It was not a nightmare. Elle knew that because even when started sleeping in the corner of my room near the door, Elle would still hear the thuds and creaks from the bedside's nightstand across the room. I even would hear the high-pitched squeals of the top drawer opening by itself. I spent countless nights staring at the open drawer, hoping whatever was in there will not get out. One night I had a dream that Elle was carrying a huge axe through the house. The axe made a familiar squealing sound and Elle woke up too late. I saw what looked like the end of a round melon with eyes peeking from the open nightstand. I guess that could have been some trauma response that my brain filled in, because remembering it now, that was not a melon, because I doubt a melon would hide and snap the drawer closed when it noticed me awake. After a while, I just didn't bother to complain anymore, which stopped Mom from dumping the bags of rat poison. That somehow also stopped the coughs and wheezing in the middle of the night. Even the thumping and hair buildup stopped. Still wasn't sleeping in my own bed though, out of fear of what could be in my nightstand. But that all changed when my cousin Mel came to stay over. Mel was about my age at that time, and our house really wasn't that big, and apart from my sister's room, there wasn't anywhere else he could stay. I told him when he entered that the bed was off limits, how he had to sleep in the corner near the door. Annoyed, he replied, "How come you get the bed?" And Vic said, "Elle was your guest. You should treat me like Elle am. I don't even sleep there," Elle answered, acting my best to sound nonchalant and cool. I remember the grimace on his face When Elle said that like Elle was stupid and didn't know what a bed was for, but that glare of disgust changed when Elle wiped out the Nintendo DS. We took turns playing that thing all day. When it was my turn, Mel would lose interest and explore the house. I didn't think anything of it at the time because Elle was a 12-year-old with a DS in my hands. Time flies as those worry. It became night when Mom got home and sent us to bed, but that didn't stop us from playing. With a flashlight in our hands, we began goofing around with play dice that Mel had found. "Let's gamble," Mel giggled. The thought of us doing such an adult thing made me smile as well. "Well, what? We don't have money," I chuckled back. With these, Mel then produced from his pocket a handful of yellow-stained human teeth. "We can pretend these are money," he laughed. I gasped, "Where did you get these?" "Why you acting so surprised?" "Elle found them in your drawer," I frowned, childlike wonder turning into fear. I didn't want to complain to Mel because Elle knew if Elle started saying something, this whole thing would start all over. "Why you have to put them away?" "Geez, fine, Elle will put them back." Mel snapped, standing up from our pack sardine-like sleeping bags and began walking to the bed. "No," I screamed, much too loud for a tired mom. "No," I repeated softer, so that the message of urgency can still come across. "Why you so scared?" "They're your teeth," Mel taunts as he wriggles back into his bag. I don't remember what we did after that, whether we continued to play or both rolled over and went to sleep after my tantrum. I don't even remember Mel getting up in the dead of night, ditching the sleeping bags for the comfort of my old bed. I can only remember my dream and what happened next. I had a dream that I was watching the sliding door to our backyard. It was pitch black, but Elle could see someone on the other side. A dark shadow of hunky man was slowly making his way to the door. I tried getting up to lock the door, but Baki was on my lap and wouldn't get off. I couldn't move. Elle tried moving the dog, but it stared up at me with unfamiliar eyes. Elle realized that this wasn't my dog. The man was at the door now and slowly opened the sliding door. The rail made a horrible squealing sound as it opened. It pierced my eardrums. It was Sister, her long curly locks hidden by the darkness outside. "I am in pain," she whispered in a grizzled voice. "I want them back. I will take you back," her voice turning much more hostile. That's when Elle woke up to the drawer of my nightstand wide open, and a withered, disfigured, naked man hunched over Mel, who lied helplessly in the bed. The man's hair was falling out to the ground around him. His eyes were bludgeoned and raw red. Bruises and bumps littered his skin, which clung to his bones, making him appear as a skeleton wearing tight human skin. I screeched at the top of my lungs, but it was as if Elle had made a sound. The room was dead silent, like some sort of sound barrier, and the man did not react. He grabbed Mel by the leg, his unconscious body non-moving as the man heaved him up like a fisherman catches a fish, then cramped him into the small nightstand. When Mel's body disappears into the black void of the drawer, the man turns to me, his sagging eyes glaring a spear into my head. "I am in horrible pain and Elle wish not to be," he whispers, before dislocating his own joints and slumping himself into the drawer. The drawer screeched as it slammed shut, leaving 12-year-old me scared, miserable, and alone. The reason why I'll bring this up 20 years later is that though I'll have moved on and now refuse to sleep anywhere near any drawers, my wife's white nightstand that she keeps on her side of the bed is starting to make noises. Hair is appearing everywhere. Bucky is appearing in my dreams again, and worse of all else, where the other night Elle saw what looked like a melon with eyes stare at me from an open drawer. This event happened in 2001. I went to college in a big city. and had 9 friends in my closest circle and my first love. We would hang out almost every day and just living our best lives. During our junior year, we had planned a boys-only weekend retreat at one of our buddies' farm, about 2 hours from the city in the country. Well, his dad owned about 200 acres and had a large chicken coops and a farmhouse with a pool. We were all excited. We had no idea that excitement would soon turn into something else that would remain with us for the rest of our lives. That Friday, we all packed our backpacks and left for the country on our motorcycles. All of us rode back then. We got to the farm and the party started. The first night went by. The second day went by. All fun until about 11 p.m. that Saturday. My buddy's dad that owns the farm called him on the landline and told him that one of their uncles had died in a small town about 2 more hours away. His dad was close with the deceased and wanted to check with us if we could go there and help out the old lady that was just been widowed as she was alone. We all decided to ride there and help out. We left the farm around 11:30 p.m. and rode for 2 hours through country roads, some tar roads, some dirt roads. When we get close to the town, there was not a soul on the roads, just us 9 people on 9 motorcycles. The only lights on the road were from our vehicles. We pull over on the side of the road to look for directions. Mind you, there were no iPhones or Google Maps back then. It was the good old-fashioned printed maps. After about 20 minutes of scratching our heads on where to go, we see a light from a car in the distance. One of my friends flags down that car as it comes closer to ask where that damn town is. Turns out he is also a resident of that town, so we decided to follow him. It's already about 2 a.m. This guy in the car says, "If any one of you are a smoker, I recommend lighting a cigarette when we hit the dirt road." I ask him why and he replies, "So the witches don't snatch you." I thought it was a bad attempt at humor given the hour. We start following him as hit a wooded area with a thin dirt road. These woods were different. It was summer months, but these woods didn't have any leaves on them. As soon as we get deep into the woods, this guy in the car rolls down his windows and lights a cigarette. That's when I felt it, that eerie feeling deep inside my heart. I ride next one of my friends who smokes and ask him to light his cigarette too. He laughed it off. I asked him to stop for a second and bummed a cigarette and light it up myself. Now my helmet is off. I am puffing smoke and the woods have this different type of silence. I get to about half my cigarette and that's when I heard it. A laugh, a scary bone-chilling, heart-dropping cackle. I asked of my friends who were riding next to me if they heard it and they confirm. I had not heard anything like that ever in my life. We rode close to each other for what seemed like an eternity, but 15 minutes in the watch. When to get to the house, we thanked the guy in his car and he drove off. As we park, we all look at each other with the same question in all of our eyes. All 9 of us heard that laugh from atop the trees. It was not just one cackle, but at least about 5 times. Anyways, we knock on the widow's door. She lets us in. Poor lady was in shambles. We helped her out the entire next day and left before sunset. That laugh has been etched in our memories forever. When we get back to city, after a few days, I asked my buddy's dad about the woods and the witch's story. He told us that legend has it that a witch lives in those woods and snatches men who happen to be in the woods. She is afraid of fire and that's why people light a cigarette if they have to drive through there at night. He thought it was all tales the country folks made up. We never told him that we experienced it firsthand. That man in the car who helped us was telling the truth. The legend of the Bell Witch takes place in a small rural town in northern Middle Tennessee called Adams. In late 1804, John and Lucy Bell and his family moved from North Carolina to Red River, Tennessee, present-day Adams, with their 6 children: Jesse, John Jr., Drury, Benjamin, Esther, Zodek, Elizabeth, Betsy, Richard, and Joel. In early accounts, the spirit itself provides its origin, stating, "I am a spirit. I once was very happy, but I have been disturbed and made unhappy. I am the spirit of a person who was buried in the cave. My bones disinterred and scattered, and one of my teeth was lost under this house. I am here looking for that tooth. Of course, this cannot be verified. However, a Native American grave was found in the cave, known now as the Bell Witch Cave. Some of the boys were playing in the cave, stole the tooth, then dropping it between the floorboards of the porch. They did day and night looking for a tooth and finally returning it. Only then the Bell Witch claimed to be a spirit from everywhere. Heaven, hell, the earth, and in the air, the houses, any place at any time, have been created millions of years. The first appearance of unusual disturbances surrounding the Bell family is usually reported as an incident on the farm, in which John Bell fired a shot at a dog-like creature which vanished. Drury and Betsy also began to see strange creatures near the property. These sights are accompanied by strange sounds around the house. Betsy, Drury, and John begin to hear unaccounted for knocking on the door and windows, the sound of wings flapping against the ceilings, and the sound of rats gnawing on bedposts. More disturbingly, the sound of choking and strangling could be heard, along with chains dragging and heavy objects hitting the floor. In all cases, the source of the noise was never found. No rats were found in the home, despite thorough searching, and no damage to the furniture was ever discovered. During these demonstrations, the family refused to speak of the events to their neighbors. Soon the spirit would become violent, mostly towards John and Betsy Bell. The witch would slap, pull hair, and pinch, resulting in sleepless nights, and for Betsy, being distracted at school, her teacher, Richard Powell, would take notice. Betsy tried to confide in her childhood sweetheart Joshua Gardner, but the witch wouldn't have it. She would beg, "Please, Betsy, please, don't marry Joshua Gardner," over and over, pulling her hair and dragging her across floors. The abuse continued on Betsy. Her family would have her stay at neighbors and friends for safety. She would eventually break things off with Joshua Gardner, though the witch was oddly kind to John's wife Lucy Bell. One story, though not proven, Lucy was sick and wanted walnuts. As if on command, walnuts fell from the ceiling as a gift from the witch. The disturbances would grow and rumors circled the town. John, swallowing his pride, finally asked for help. Over the coming months, people would come in and out to see what was transpiring in the Bell home. The witch would entertain them, poking fun at the men, still answering their questions and not disappointing them with activity, including Andrew Jackson. She would hound people who missed church, reciting the sermon to them and berate them. She could recite a passage of the Bible. She went from church to church, 12 or more miles apart, and recite what each priest was saying. Family friend William Porter claimed the witch climbed into bed with him, allowing him the opportunity to seize the spirit in the bedclothes, and attempted to throw it into the fire, saying only the immense weight and terrible smell of it prevented him from succeeding. The theory of Kate Batts, Mary Catherine Kate Batts, the wife of Frederick Batts, was believed by many to have been the culprit behind the disturbances known as the Bell Witch. Though not a poor woman, she was often mocked by others throughout the town. Her improper usage of words, along with her sometimes strange ways, led many to think she was practicing black magic or other forms of the occult. Benjamin Batts, the brother of Frederick Betts, had a dispute with John Bell over the sale of a slave. Acts of the dispute were later tangled and became the source of a rumor to the effect that John Bell and Kate Betts had the quarrel, and that the Bell Witch was created by Kate Betts to get revenge on Bell. While there are plenty of stories connecting the Bell Witch to Kate, one of the central goals of the Bell Witch seemed to be the death of John Bell's sister. Old Jack Bell, as the spirit called him, was blasted with curses, heinous threats, and serious physical torments. As the abuse continued, John Bell took to his bed growing ill and was cared for by John Jr. On December 19, 1820, John Bell failed to leave his bed, and John Jr. went to the cupboard to retrieve the medicine for his father. Instead of the 3 medicine vials, he found only 1 vial. It was 1/3 full of a dark, smoky unknown liquid. The voice of the witch gloated, "It's useless for you to try to relieve old Jack. I have got him this time. He will never get up from that bed again." She claimed of the vial that she gave old Jack a big dose of it last night while he was fast asleep, which fixed him. The contents of the vial were thrown into the fire and erupted into a blue blaze. John Bell died December 20th, 1820. The Bell Witch crashed the funeral, disrupting the service and singing bawdy drinking songs. John Bell's death being the first to be recorded death of supernatural causes. After John's death, the disturbances seemed to come to an end, but she promised to come back in 7 years, to which she did, predicting things like the Civil War. Betsy Bell would later go on to marry her former teacher, Richard Powell. Richard Bell, the second youngest, wrote his account of events entitled Our Family Trouble, the story of the Bell Witch of Tennessee. There are many other little side stories to this legend. The Bell family, still living in Robertson County to the day, owning the Austin and Bell funeral homes.